Hi, I'm Diana Oxley. I'm with the Northwest Regional Educational Laboratory in Portland, Oregon, and I am interviewing John Binet, who is the director of the Pre-Teaching Academy at Hillcrest High School. The Pre-Teaching Academy is one of 7 9 through 12 small learning communities. And as I understand it, John, you are both a teacher and a director. Some of your time is dedicated to leading the academy, part to teaching. Can you give us a little more detail of that?
Sure, no problem. Yes, I teach 2 periods a day. I teach anywhere from, I teach 2 elective courses. I teach a Foundations of Education class, which is thematic to pre-teaching, and I also teach a regular English class. Part of my day is also a common planning time facilitator. I meet with my teachers and I discuss certain issues within the school, and then the rest of the time is me being a director, and I'm pretty much able to be in my office as well as within the hallways. And
okay, very good. Can you give us some information now about the Pre-Teaching Academy itself?
Sure. If you could imagine a school of 350 to 400 students who have a proclivity towards education, and who basically are predominantly female, and who want to be elementary school or secondary ed teachers, pretty much will know what pre-teaching is about. My teachers, I have 14 teachers. They range from everywhere from 21 years old to Mr. Strong, who is 64 years old and on the twilight of his career, but still going very, very strong, as his name is. Basically, we meet together 3 times a week as a group, and we discuss what we need to do to make our school the best SLC in Hillcrest.
Okay, very good. A little bit more about the theme and what teachers are focused on within the SLC?
Sure, no problem. Basically, as I said, the students at pre-teaching, many of them want to be elementary school and secondary ed teachers. So what we try to do is we try to make the themes around different strategies that teachers can use to make the learning better. One of the things that we try to implement is student-centered lessons. This in the beginning was a struggle because our profession tends to be an isolated profession. So in the beginning, it was very difficult to get the teachers on board to want them to relinquish some of that power. So one of the things we did was we formed a student leadership committee where we asked the students within the SLC, ranging from 9th grade to senior year, to pretty much come up with plans and come up with the ideal classroom. And what they did was they worked hard together, the students, and they brought in to my common time where my teachers were, they brought in some of the strategies and some of the ways they felt that students learn best. And this really went in line with what the school was moving towards. For example, with learning labs right now, the most recent topic is differentiated instruction. So basically, what Mr. Scanlon, who is the facilitator of my learning lab, the pre-teaching learning lab, what the students were basically doing for our teachers was showing them a lot of the things that Mr. Scanlon was also showing them, and it was just a natural harmony. And so that's one of the ways that we're going about making. Okay.
And Mr. Scanlon is Dan, the assistant principal of who's in charge of the social studies department. Just want to clarify that. Okay, so can you give us some more information now about the learning labs?
Okay, so the learning lab consists of 3 days. Day 1 is Mr. Scanlon, who is the assistant principal of social studies, where he meets with us, and there's various topics. Most recent, as I spoke about, was DI, differentiated instruction. Basically, what my teachers are doing is they're all together in one room, and we're picking up some strategies that Mr. Scanlon is bringing into the learning lab. And then from there, our learning labs days 2 and 3 we pretty much implement into an action plan what we feel will best suit our SLC. So the first day, Dan gives us all these different types of strategies, and day 2, where I facilitate, we pretty much talk about different things that we feel will best suit our SLC.
Okay, so day 1, Mr. Scanlon would facilitate the teachers learning a strategy?
Yeah, well, he introduces the strategy, and we learn what that strategy is. We speak about how that strategy will best fit our students. And then on day 2, what we do is we break into committees, and from breaking into those committees, we form lesson plans that are presented. Those are presented in common time as well as in the next learning lab.
Okay, good. And I understand that students have a special role in this. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? How are students contributing to the work of improving teaching?
Sure. There is a student leadership committee that was formed very early on in pre-teaching when we first began. And basically, this just consists of 9th grade through 12th grade, and these are students who are really committed to the SLC. They have a lot of pride in the SLC, and the way it came about is a few of them will come to my office and say, we feel as though the teaching could become better. We feel as though we want to be able to have more of a voice. And with that, I started the student leadership program, and what happened was they really started to give me ideas and my teachers ideas on how to make the lessons better. And what we saw was the things that Mr. Scanlon brings into Learning Lab are very much the same as what the students would bring in. It's just said differently, that students don't have the command of the language. So my teachers are starting to realize that it's not just something that's coming from top down, but it's really something that's needed and meaningful, and that students even recognize it.
Very interesting. I can imagine that, you know, it's easier to understand what's really needed or what you really need to do differently when you're hearing about it both from, you know, your supervisor who's expert and can give you some direction on what you need to do, but then you're also hearing about it from students and how they're perceiving it in terms of what their needs are and what's not working for them. I would just, you know, I can only imagine here, but that it would become much clearer than what you need to do and also that you need to change something.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was difficult because it was hard for sometimes for teachers to relinquish that power or to sit in a room where they're being taught by the students that they teach throughout the day. But it's really worked well because we have challenged our teachers, our student teachers, our apprentices, to really show us how to do it.
Okay. Can you tell us something about how the SLCs collaborate together? You know, what kind of collaboration goes on across the SLCs? My understanding is that they aren't completely separate, autonomous entities. Is that right?
Yeah, sure. Well, we have what are called director and co-director meetings, where once a week we come down to the principal's office and we share what's going on within our SLC. We speak about the different things that are doing well in our SLC, and it's an opportunity for us to pick up from our colleagues, from the other directors, things that we feel are working well, what we need help in. And there's also retreats that we have. The different retreats that we go on, sometimes they're called mini retreats, sometimes they're larger retreats, but there's where we basically talk about different things that as well are needed. We have data retreats. We have where we speak about quality review. And basically, it's a way to get all the leaders in the building to be on the same page and to really work on trying to highlight the things that are needed and our weaknesses as well as our strengths.
Very good. Could I get you to reflect for just a minute now on what you think that you've really achieved with the Learning Lab and with the focus on really developing new skills and more effective teaching? You know, can you give us kind of your assessment of what's really changed here? What's really been accomplished?
Sure, no problem. Well, in the beginning, if you go back three years ago, teachers were very isolated. They did not want to share best practices. Teachers were, in a sense, afraid to work with someone from another discipline. Now, in Common Time as well as in Learning Labs, they're a lot more susceptible to working with someone from another discipline, and they also are very unafraid now to grasp data and to look at it. One of the reasons, I think, is because we have training and we have had ways to make the teachers feel a lot more comfortable with data and seeing how it is aligned with student achievement.
Very good. What do you see in terms of next steps? You've made some progress. You've clearly achieved quite a bit in terms of getting teachers focused on their own practice and working with others to improve it. What do you see as the very next steps for continuing your improvement efforts?
I think what would make me very happy is to see a lot more of the teachers taking more of a leadership role. I think that Mr. Scanlon and I if we could just take a step back and watch them facilitate and watch them go about talking about what they see that would make the SLC greater and stronger, I think that would be great. I would like to be able to see the students teaching more, since it is pre-teaching, and because that would show me that the teachers are actually more confident in allowing the classroom to be more student-centered than teacher-centered.
Yeah, that's kind of the acid test of their improvement, right, and their enlarging capacity. Do you see some teachers just sort of naturally emerging as leaders, or are you cultivating it in a specific way?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, there are some. I'm thinking of a teacher who, as soon as she began, you could see that leadership in her, and she was a major stakeholder. But then there's others who, in the beginning, they were very resistant, and now, on their own, they're taking up a lot of leadership and things like that.
Yeah, well, that's a significant shift then, when they're looking a little less to you and to Mr. Scanlon and more to one another. I mean, I would think the press then to, you know, reflect on your practice and improve it is really broadened from not just your supervisors, but from your own peers. There's some pressure there to, you know, try to discover what you can do to improve your practice.
Peer pressure was probably the greatest asset that we had, because once they saw that there were younger teachers within the SLC who took this leadership role, it caused them to want to then step up a little bit and become that way as well.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that gives us a good idea, a good picture of how teachers and students are operating within the small learning community. I appreciate very much your willingness to share information about your leadership role and how you're working with the teachers. Thanks a lot, John.
Thank you.